Today's scripture reading is from Song of Songs, chapter 1, verses 5 through 6b. I am black and beautiful, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Do not gaze at me because I am dark. It was the sun that has gazed on me. Here ends our reading. Thanks be to God.
So we continue reading from the Song of Songs in this season of Lent and into Easter. And for this Sunday of Black History Month celebration, I thought that this is an appropriate reading for us. I am black and beautiful. That is how it should be translated. And unfortunately, it hasn't been always translated like that. There are some biblical translations and relatively frequent translation which would translate, I am black but beautiful. It started early with Saint Jerome, author of Vulgate, translation of Bible into Latin. So you know that it has been around for quite a while. And his comments made it even worse because then he commented, I am black but nevertheless beautiful. Grammatically, if you look into Hebrew language, it might be so, possibly. Factually, it is wrong and it is offensive. Because there were a number of ancient Near East goddesses who were portrayed as black. Egyptian gods had very often special colors. That was their color code. So Osiris was green and Ammon was blue, and there was, for instance, Black Queen Ahmes Nefertari, who became a divine patron of the necropolis of Thebes, and she was black. Hellenistic goddesses later on in Greek culture also sometimes were portrayed as black. Isis, Cybele, Demeter, Diana, and even Aphrodite, Venus, Black Venus. And it continued into Christianity. Some of the most famous depictions of Virgin Mary are actually black. Black Madonna of Montserrat in Catalonia, Virgin of Altötting in Bavaria, and Black Madonna of Częstochowa in Poland. I intentionally picked these so that you see that we proceed from Spain all the way to Poland. They were black, divine, and beautiful. Any other suggestion is frankly shallow and racist. There was never any tension between being black and beautiful. Definitely not in the realm of true spirituality. And on this Black History Month, in this celebration, I want to lift up one such black Presbyterian woman who was beautiful and most importantly had a beautiful black soul. Her name was, as I talked in the children's message, Betsey Stockton or Elizabeth Stockton. She was born to slavery sometimes before 1800. And that tells you that they did not even bother of recording their exact date birth. She was born to enslaved mother, an unknown white father, in the household of Robert Stockton in New Jersey. As a child, Betsey was given as a gift to Elizabeth Stockton Green and lived in Philadelphia in the household of Reverend Ashbel Green. You need to understand that Stocktons were a famous New Jersey Presbyterian family and slave-owning family, while Greens were similarly famous family of Presbyterian ministers who were opposed to slavery. So maybe there was a way of trying to corrupt those Greens with giving them a slave. Elizabeth grew up in their family together with their children and moved with them to Princeton, where Reverend Green became president of the college, future Princeton University. It needs to be mentioned here that unlike southern states, which forbid by law educating slaves and penalized even their education, New Jersey and Pennsylvania had exactly opposite laws, demanding education of slaves. And Betsey, who was obviously extremely bright, not only learned to read and write, she was immersed in one of the most stimulating environments America at that time could offer. When Betsey was about 20, she was given her full freedom and was admitted by the session to the full membership of the First Presbyterian Church in Princeton. She was admitted under her name and as a free person. And here I would like to highlight that tension between the slavery and abolitionism, even within one broader family, and tension between freedom and bringing up a child and a youngster responsibly without kicking that child out to the street. Now we move onward to that area or to that period which I talked about during children's message. 2 years later, she applied for the position with the American Board of Commissioners of Foreign Missions. That was a major missionary organization in the United States among the Congregationalists and Presbyterians. And Betsey received a recommendation from her patron, the president of Princeton's University, and accolades from a number of young ministers whom she met in Princeton, with whom she led discussions and correspondence, and who attested to her deep as well as broad education. Self-education, we need to say. To our best knowledge, she became the first black woman missionary and first single woman sent to Hawaii or anywhere around the world with a missionary couple of Reverend Charles and Harriet Stewarts. She was intentionally twinned with them to help this young couple, but also for her own protection. The world was not yet ready for free black women sailing on the ships on the high seas. That was her protection for a professional woman. That was something unheard of in America. While traveling to Hawaii around Cape Horn and grueling sail of many months, Betsey delivered Stewart's firstborn child, Charles, with whom she stayed in contact all her life. During long months at sea, Betsey also learned the spoken Hawaiian from several Hawaiian young men who were traveling together with them from the mission school in Cornwall, Connecticut. Betsey and her missionary family were sent to Lahaina in Maui. You might remember Lahaina, that's the place where there was that major fire just recently. At that time, it was the residence of the Hawaiian king, Kamehameha II, and his court. Betsey wrote in her diary about their first Sunday worship in Maui. Under the canopy of a tree, And we might even guess that it might be that famous Lahaina banyan tree, which got severely damaged. And you know that it made the news. And in that first worship, royalty was in attendance and was sitting on couches. Missionaries on chairs. Ali'i, that means chiefs, were on Hawaiian mats, nicely put together, and commoners on the ground. And Betsey, because she spoke Hawaiian, was asked to sit on a sofa with a famous queen regent, Ka'ahumanu. And she conversed with her. The first school was open just for the Na Keiki Ali'i, for the children of the chiefs, as I talked in my children's message. But Betsey pushed strongly for general education. And soon she taught Kekula Maka'ainana, the first ever Hawaiian school for commoners. Because of the chronic illness of Harriet Stewart's return to New England, and Betsey, who was very fond of them and intertwined, as we talked about, for their protection and her own protection, returned with them after a few years in Hawaii. But here I would like to lift aloha spirit of Hawaii, anti-racist. Betsey, literally, rubbing shoulders with a queen. But also Betsey's bright and beautiful black soul. She did not get uppity. She cared for common people. And also, I would like here to lift her loyalty to her family and friends. Now we move back to United States. And after her return she served in Philadelphia, because right there they were just starting the first public schools for children, just general children. And simultaneously, they opened the first infant school for black children in Philadelphia. And Betsey was asked to organize that school and to lead it, with a number of teachers under her. For one summer, she even went to Canada, helping to set a school for Ojibwa children there. But then she came to her birthplace and organized and taught a black school in Princeton. She also helped to set up Witherspoon Street Presbyterian Church for black Presbyterians, and within it, she organized and led the night school for adults. So she was working during the day with children and overnight with adults who did not have that opportunity of learning to read and write and basic mathematics. There she served for more than 30 years. She died about 70 years old. Her funeral was attended by who is who among Presbyterian clergy of that time. And it was buried in Cooperstown next to a grave of her missionary colleague and friend Harriet and later Charles Stewart. All the schools Elizabeth organized and taught were, of course, and were segregated. That's absolutely not ideal. But within the racist America of that age, she did her best, taught children. Born mixed race into slavery in wealthy and well-connected families in New Jersey, given to and brought up by a theologian from a family of pastors with a long history of opposing slavery, never really attending any school, but growing up in the center of Princeton, she became highly self-educated and was accomplished and deeply respected and trusted educator herself. Her patrons and Betsey herself, dealing with the currents of their time and valiantly striving against the constraints and prejudices of their age, meeting with, gaining respect, and often keeping friendship with intellectuals and gentle people of all races, including Hawaiian royalty, while always advocating and striving to educate common folks. Maka ainana. So here you have it. Elizabeth Stockton was black and beautiful. Beautiful and black, deeply loving and caring human soul.